Hello everyone, and welcome to this segment of our board candidate video series. And this program will focus on the school board's role in student achievement. And joining me to discuss that topic is Phyllis Barks. Phyllis is our Associate Executive Director for Leadership Development at MSBA, and Janet Tilley, who is our Director of Board Development at MSBA. And ladies, thanks a lot for being with us.
Sure.
We appreciate it. Phyllis, let's start with you if we could. We like to say at MSBA that student achievement is job one for Board of Education. Why do we say that?
Well, Brent, as you know, public education really is about every student, and we can't turn anyone down. It's for every kid. And so we want the board to focus on just creating that sense of urgency about learning and giving every student an opportunity to learn and achieve and have opportunities for their life. And when the board keeps that focus, when the board makes student learning a priority and they're talking about it throughout the year, that helps everybody else focus. And that becomes a priority for everyone and really helps move the district and every student forward.
Mm-hmm. Janet, what are some common measures of student achievement?
Well, in Missouri, obviously, we have a state assessment which is called the MAP. And the MAP is given in grades 3 through 8 for our, kind of elementary and middle school children. And then the end of course exams are the ones that are given for our high school students in grades 9 through 12. The MAP assessments, or grade level assessments, occur in English language arts and in mathematics at every grade level. In science at the 5th grade level and the 8th grade level. And for our high school students with the end of course exams, those occur after the student has taken that particular course. For example, in Missouri, our students are required to take the Biology 1 exam. So if that occurs at the 9th grade or 10th grade, doesn't matter. It's at the end of that particular course. They are also required to take the Algebra 1, the English 2, and then in social studies, they're required to take government. Those assessments are usually given in the spring. The end of course can sometimes vary. It just depends with the high school student and when they finally complete that particular course. They are a snapshot of how our students are doing with the Missouri Learning Standards. That's the assessment that is aligned, obviously, to those particular standards. Districts also give local assessments, and those will differ, and board members need to be familiar with whatever kind of local assessments are given. Usually they want to look at what's happening with students in literacy and in mathematics in those primary years from kindergarten up to 3rd grade before the MAP starts. And so those will vary by district. The assessments change. And at the state level anyway, simply because our Missouri Learning Standards have changed. And so we're going to see some changes occur, not so much this year, but in coming years. In this spring, the students will be taking their MAP assessments, their state level assessments on the current Missouri Learning Standards, the ones that were approved really prior to last March of 2016, because it takes a while to get the assessments lined up with the new standards. So they will see that those students will be taking kind of the same type of assessment this spring. Then in 2018, you will see new English language arts and mathematics assessments. And then in 2019, that will shift to pick up new assessments in science and in social studies will be in 2020. So we've kind of staggered it a little bit.
And Janet, these changing assessments and standards have presented some challenges for our school boards and administrators when you're trying to compare student progress from year to year.
It does create challenges for them because you want to make sure that when you're comparing assessments and student progress that it's the same standards that you're following over time. So if we have these assessments that are coming in 2017 are aligned to the same standards you would have found in 2016 and in 2015. So they will be able to compare those 3 years. However, after 2017, when the assessments change, they won't be able to make those kinds of comparisons again.
Mm-hmm. And yet, Phyllis, that is one of the jobs of a Board of Education, isn't it? take this data and to evaluate student progress and to determine, are we doing as well as we need to be doing in student progress?
Exactly, and those MAP scores are one of the ways we want school boards to be monitoring that kind of progress, because it's that district snapshot. They can see overall how students are doing. They can see how they're progressing from one year to the next in the same grade or across the same subject areas. So that's one of the reasons it's really important for districts to have those local measures as well. Those state level measures, the broad brush stroke that MAP gives us is great. And in addition to just being able to compare your own district from one year to the next, you can also look at how does your district compare with the state average. So whether it's a new assessment or not, you can still compare with how do you stack up kind of with other districts across the state. But those local measures, if districts have made those decisions, and Janet talked about those in terms of using those throughout the year and annually, then that provides some greater consistency for districts in this time of changing state level kinds of assessments.
Mm-hmm. And Phyllis, should the Board of Education expect their administration to present this data to them for evaluation?
Oh, absolutely. And that's typically a regular part of the superintendent's report to the school board. There will be a more comprehensive look at that, probably annually when those MAP scores become available, but the superintendent may ask other administrators and district level leaders to come and share assessment data throughout the year, particularly for those local assessments that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Janet, our board candidates may have heard of the Missouri School Improvement Program, or MSIP. What's MSIP all about?
Well, MSIP is the Missouri School Improvement Program, and so that's what it means. And with the number behind it, we'll talk about how many iterations we have had. So we've had 5 iterations of the Missouri School Improvement Program, or MSIP, since 1993, when it was established with the Outstanding Schools Act. Obviously, with kind of the change in our state and federal laws, we will begin to see a new iteration of MSIP 6 that will be coming in some current years. But the MSIP really looks at districts in 5 different areas. They will look at how the district is doing in overall student achievement, how they're doing in achievement with their subgroup students. And those subgroup students include those students who are African American, Hispanic, limited English proficiency, and IEP students as well. Then they will also look at how the district is doing with college and career readiness. This will be things such as the scores on assessments like the ACT or the ASVAB. They will look at how the students are doing if they take advanced placement courses, how they are doing in as far as placement after graduation. They also look at your graduation rate, and will compare it from several different years. And then also they will look at attendance, because we are held to having 90% of our students in attendance 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm. And MSIP is important, Janet, because that's what determines a school district's accreditation, right?
It does. And so there, you want to obviously have a percentage rate that gives you the accredited status. And that will be at the 70% or above. Districts falling below that may be provisionally accredited or possibly unaccredited if they fall below 50%. But again, that accreditation status is based upon 3 years of data, not just annually.
Mm-hmm. Phyllis, are there some federal laws that come into play when we're talking about student achievement?
Oh, sure. We've been most familiar with No Child Left Behind, and this past year, that law was finally updated and revised by Congress, and it's known now as the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA. And we've already seen some of the provisions of that law have taken place this year, but parts of that will be phased in the next few years, and we're still waiting on the final regulations that will really articulate how states will implement that ESSA. And so in response to that, each state develops a plan that says how Missouri is going to respond to and address the requirements that we have to meet in order to get those federal funds that are associated with that. So as Janet mentioned, we'll be aligning our federal requirements with our state requirements that we see through MSIP 6. So that will be part of that, will be incorporated. There are just some new things that will be changing. A lot of the things will be the same in terms of student achievement progress and some of those kinds of things, but we'll be providing more information about that as well. Another law that a lot of folks are familiar with, there are a number of federal laws, but another one that's most commonly referred to is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. And that's the federal law that provides funding and support for public education for students with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. So Janet, how do school boards affect student achievement? School boards are not in the classroom teaching kids on a day-to-day basis. How do they have an impact on this?
Well, there's research out there, Brent, about the kind of correlational effect that school boards can have on student performance. And what they have found is that really there are some very common characteristics. Number one is that these school boards focus on student achievement. That's their primary focus. You will find that in their school board meetings and in the minutes, you will see references to student performance and monitoring how well students are doing. The second thing is that these boards have very clear goals and expectations for how they want their students to perform, and they monitor those, and they have collaborative conversations with the superintendent about what is important and what are district priorities. The other is that these particular boards know how to delegate authority to their superintendent and his or her staff to make it happen, because we know then that there are the people who provide that operational and administrative kind of leadership. But those are some key things that school board members and school boards can do.
Mm-hmm. So Phyllis, during this program, we are just scratching the surface, obviously, on this issue of student achievement, but we at MSBA, we have lots of good resources for our board members once they're elected on this issue, and we cover it in our additional training as well, don't we?
Absolutely. And you know, we would recommend, and I think board members around the state would recommend, to complete the state required training as soon as possible after being elected. And you're right, we do address student achievement, and we go into more depth in that training. And we provide workshops to local boards throughout the year and have resources available to help board members kind of wade through all the information and how to make sense of it, how to ask the right questions to really engage the conversation with their superintendent and in their communities and that sort of thing.
All right, Phyllis Sparks, Janet Tilley, thanks a lot for being with us
Thanks,
on this
Brent.
segment. And we thank you as well for viewing this segment of our board candidate video series on student achievement.